space, the final frontier.
Yep.
These are the voyages of the Star Trek Enterprise.
Yep. The Starship Enterprise.
Starship.
Right.
See, I got it wrong.
Right. And when you first started saying it, I can just hear the orchestra start to build in the background. You know?
Doesn't it
Yeah.
give you chills though when
It
that kind of
does.
stuff comes out?
And every time an episode is on, and I don't watch much TV, right? I don't subscribe to cables or whatever. We have like those channels that are built into the LG TV and Samsung TV where they play. I can't. The name is slipping my memory now, but they just kind of have channels, right? And they just play the same show over and over again. And whenever an episode of Star Trek is on, I forget what I'm doing. I don't open up my Plex server. I don't go to YouTube. I don't open Amazon. I just watch it, right?
Yeah.
If it turns on and it starts playing, I just watch it. That show, I'm not even going to say shape my child. Star Trek The Next Generation shaped the person that I am. That's how much of a Trekkie I am. I know you see the lightsaber in the background and you see, my Infinity Gauntlet and my Nano Gauntlet. And I love comics and stuff like that, but I'm a Trekkie. And Star Trek made me the person that I am. So,
All right. So if this is intriguing, stick around because this is Two Grandpas Talking Tech Retro versus Modern Edition. I'm your host, Greg Cunningham.
And I'm your host, Jay Benjamin. And I love talking about tech. I know the show is Two Grandpas Talking About Tech, but I really love this.
Yeah.
I really love reminiscing about our childhood and the toys that made us and the movies and businesses and everything. This is my favorite part of the show.
And if nothing else, if nobody ever subscribes again, but we do this long enough, we'll have a video-based history of our childhood for our kids and grandkids. And they'll go, what is that, Grandpa? Yes, Sonny, that's Grandpa.
Yep. Quick side note, back when we were doing Gadgets for Families, my daughter-in-law sent a video and it was just my grandson. He was small. And again, I don't want to rehash that old argument about how early is too early to buy kids tablets. But I mean, he was just learning it. He was a baby and he's sitting up and she's just recording him in the bed. But I'm hearing Greg in the background and I'm like, wait, is that Greg I hear? And you're talking about it. I'm like, wait, he's watching the show. And she's like, yes, he watches the show just to hear Grandpa. So if none of you guys subscribe, you don't share the show, at least my grandchildren watch. So.
Yep. All right. So today, I think maybe we should, I don't know if we should turn this around, but we normally do our retro stuff first, and then we do our modern stuff, which is probably good because we're going to spend more time talking about the retro stuff. It's just the way it is. And it'll be very, very short on the modern shows that I think longer term might be as epic as some of these. Maybe. But let's start with the one we already introduced the theme to, and let's talk about Star Trek, The Next Generation.
Yeah.
And to see Patrick Stewart be Jean-Luc Picard in that series, in some of the movies, most of the movies were kind of garbagey, but, in some of the movies, and then to see him go into Picard the series.
Yes.
But then also to realize that he's sort of a classically trained actor, right?
Hamlet. Yeah. Macbeth. Yeah.
His A Christmas Carol, where he does all of the voices, I've heard is like the best thing ever. Someday I'm actually going to grab it and do it. I just don't have the patience to listen to books for that long. But apparently it is just phenomenal. But the other thing I wanted to mention, do you know what Brent Spiner did before he got the call to do Star Trek?
No, what did he do?
He was supposed to become a regular on Night Court.
Really? Okay.
He was, what were their names?
So I remember John Larroquette's character was
Yeah, it was.
Dan, and yeah,
Yeah. So they were this always down on your luck hillbilly couple from Yugoslavia that would walk
I remember the
in.
character. Yep.
Yep. And that was that was supposed to become a regular. And I got to admit, I've watched so many of those clips in the last several weeks of just them coming in and blowing up the chicken farm and getting arrested for it, and Granny getting run over by a train, but leaving him 200 grand in cash and a coffee cup. It's just, that's what it is. But he was Data. So did you, because I don't know that I started watching it when it first came out, but I do remember when I really, really, really watched it. So did you watch it like when it first came out, or was it after the fact?
So I want to say I think I picked it up during its second season. Okay, when did Denise Crosby leave? She left the second or third season.
Yeah,
So
was that Tasha?
yeah, Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
So I think she left at the end of the second season or midway through the second season. Cause there's an episode of her waving in the background, and it's something it was a blooper, but they left it in the regular episode. And I remember always watching that episode and seeing her waving in the background. Well, that was her last day of filming,
She did
in
not
real life.
leave, Jason. She sacrificed and went into the alternate dimension timeline
She did.
multiverse.
And isn't that just a testament of how awesome Star Trek was?
Dude,
They rewrote it.
Everybody thinks DC created the multiverse, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yep. They didn't.
No.
Yeah. It was Star Trek. So, and time travel.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
right?
I know there was Back to the Future and stuff, but doesn't that show how good the writing was? Right. They went back. And in real life, she wanted to do more things. She wanted to do more acting. She left the show because she didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And then what? 3 seasons later, they're still a hit. And they wrote an episode of why she left the show.
Yeah.
To the fact.
Yep.
That's how awesome it was, And again, I think about that in one episode. They picked up and she's waving as the doors are closing, and didn't realize that was her last day of filming. So, but back to your question, I think I picked it up when Worf had already took that position, and so I think that was the beginning of season 3.
Yeah. So I remember, this is the nostalgia part of all of this, folks. And if you don't want the nostalgia, this is the wrong show for you, because I remember watching it in my college dorm. Okay. And I took my grandpa's, it was about a 4 or 6 inch screen color TV that also had an AM FM radio built into it. That's what I took with me to college. Okay. That's where I watched Star Trek. It came on at 10:30 at night, right after the news, because the news was only a half hour back in my day. So it came on at like 10:35. That's when The Next Generation came on. And that is my then. And then also when I came home from my mission, Karen would watch it with me. So that is my nostalgia around watching The Next Generation and the Borg episodes when they caught Picard. I don't care if we do spoilers or not on this show. This stuff's old enough. But when they got Picard and how they got him back, and then that fed into First Contact, which I actually thought was a really good Star Trek movie. I liked that one. So that's the nostalgia for me, is laying on my dorm bed, watching it on that itty bitty screen.
Right.
And they thinking I was in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. Best thing ever. So anyone that's younger listening, and we talked about this before, I mentioned it before, there was no DVR for us. There was no on-demand watching. We had to be in front of the TV at the certain time to check out the episode. And we did it religiously. We made sure we were in that spot. Greg, you had your TV in the dorm room. I made it home from outside playing or whatever I was doing and made it in front of the TV just in time to check out the episodes. Well, I remember in the summertime, they would play back-to-back episodes like 1
Mm-hmm.
a.m. or something like that. And you can catch it. So between, 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., 3 o'clock, I would be up in the middle of the night checking out Star Trek. And yeah, those the few episodes you mentioned are some of my favorite episodes, especially Tomorrow's Enterprise. That probably is probably one of my number one episodes because one, in real life, it went back and it rewrote the reason for Denise Crosby leaving,
Yep.
Tasha Yar leaving, but it also just showed just awesome storytelling skills and telling and building that universe, that alternate universe of another Enterprise. Or, um, really, really, really cool. And we talked about the Borg episodes, but one that really stood out is the one about Hugh.
Oh,
The
yeah.
the first one that
Yeah.
just really showed after what they did to Picard, after the threat that the Borg pose and to everything. And you go back and you look at those episodes, and Worf is like, "What are we doing? Just kill this thing and let's go." You know what I mean? And just to show humanity and compassion towards something that if you help heal it, get it back to normal, it's going to come back and kill you. It's going to go back with his friends, his buddies, his Borg, his hive, and come back and kill you and your whole planet. And just to show that that whole thought process and the compassion that they had for Hugh and all of that. And he even came back in Picard all of
Mm-hmm.
these years later. That's
Yep.
how big of a character he was. Now,
Yeah.
he didn't get the send off that I want. No spoilers for Picard. We'll spoil
Yeah.
Next Generation, but
Yeah.
uh, I'm assuming like me, there's some people that are still like, I'm gonna get to it, and just hadn't got to it. But yeah, really good storytelling. Really, really good storytelling.
The other kind of line that I really, really enjoyed, I liked the line with Q. That was always fascinating because you just never knew what Q was going to do, which ties into the Picard series too. But the other parts that I found super fascinating were when we got to go and dive deep into the Klingon culture and politics,
Yes,
like Worf's family being dishonored, but him doing it voluntarily, right? Or when Picard is the arbiter of succession for Galron,
yes,
right?
yeah,
And getting to go in and just see all of that kind of stuff. And it just like in the one line in First Contact when Picard calls Worf a coward. And Worf's like, if you were any other man, I would kill you where you
anybody else.
stand.
Yep.
And but then afterwards, Picard has to apologize, right? Because that's the way it should have been. But um, just just phenomenal, phenomenal. And then they took the writers. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I'm guessing one of your favorite shows you would lean into would be DS9 because
Yep.
they took the writers from Next Generation, and once they put them on DS9,
Yes, it got a
that
lot better.
show leveled up.
It did. It got a lot better, and you can almost see the change after when those writers started writing it. The Dominion Wars, Worf came. They took what historically had been a ship captain, but he was a station captain, and gave him a ship. Right? They wanted
Right.
him to be a captain on a ship out away from the station, and which is a really awesome ship, being the USS Defiant was a crazy ship with the cloaking device, and they had lore and history behind that, and how it was a warship. And wait, the Federation doesn't make warships. Well, we have this one. And yeah, it just got so much better. So yeah, Star Trek: The Next Generation set up because did you watch the original series?
Yeah. Yeah. Most
So
of it.
I watched a little after Next Generation, after DS9, and even Voyager. I went back and watched it, and while those were good for the time, they were more how do you say that? More like soap opera kind of the old Twilight Zone. They were really dramatic, right?
Hmm.
Classically trained actors. Although DS9 and Next Generation had classically trained actors and stuff too. A lot of them weren't just you know weekly stars or whatever. Some of these people were stage actors and stuff. It was really dramatic, right? The storytelling and stuff back then. But not Enterprise, Next Generation changed that in a way that all of the shows kind of copied that form of storytelling going forward. It was a more modern take on it. And, we see it now with Discovery and how Strange New Worlds kind of follows that type of storytelling, a more action packed and all of that. So just the way the storytelling changed, actors just have to kind of adjust to that. But I think more so than the original series, I think Next Generation kind of started or kicked off that whole new generation of storytelling and storytellers with it all started with Next Generation. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could spend the whole episode talking about
right.
Star Trek, right? I'm just going to tell you a couple others. Here's the thing. I realized that most of this, with the exception of ER, so ER is nostalgic for me because it was one of my mom's favorite shows. She was a nurse. Um, but it was also one of the first times that a TV show got the science or the um, actual profession. They did it right. Right? I mean, they had doctors advising on everything, and it was as medically correct. Now, miracles all the time, right? But it was as medically correct as it could be. So that one was super, super favorite of my mom's, and I love that. But the other shows, almost all of this stuff I watched at late night, right? So M.A.S.H was another one that came on at 10:35
Yeah.
at night.
So I'm going to steal that one from you. I
Okay,
had that one
steal
on
it.
the list, and I have some nostalgia behind that.
All right.
So MASH. So you were leading up to talking about MASH, right? Now was a show that was focused in or set in Vietnam,
Korea.
right? Korea, the Korean War, and it followed the group of the mobile doctors and stuff, right? They were the doctors that patched up the soldiers and stuff on the battlefield. They would come to them, and this show, I would say, is another big part of my childhood because not because of the show itself. It is because of the show itself, but this was the time of the evening where I got to sit. We all had school and we played outside with friends, and my mom had work, and my older brothers and sisters, they had work. Well, my one sister, she had a job and stuff back then, but this was the time of the evening where everybody could just settle down, and we either ate dinner or were about to eat dinner, and we're all find ourselves in the living room in front of the TV right when the MASH theme song was coming on. And just hearing that theme song, um, man, it just I can think of a ton of episodes because there was some really good episodes, but more so than the episodes itself, hearing that theme song was like the dinner bell. They ring the dinner bell and everyone knows that it's time to eat. Well, hearing the MASH song knew that, hey, this is the time where I get to sit with my brothers and my mom, and even if my cousins were over or friends and family and stuff, this was that time to settle down and enjoy each other's company, which rarely happens today. Rarely happens. Even with my kids, we still will eat dinner and stuff together, but still everyone's in their room playing their games or on their devices and stuff like that. But we don't have anything like the MASH theme song to say, all right, it's time to settle down the evening. Everybody has work and school tomorrow. Let's all get together and let's watch MASH. And that's why I love that show.
Yep. And I can, as soon as I hear the theme song, I can see Radar staring up the helicopter because
Yeah,
that's the intro, right? It
right,
just,
right.
that was the thing. And I was the same way because it was my grandparents. And so that was something that we watched with them and just watched over and over and over again. And Alan Alda, even he's got Parkinson's now, I think. Yeah. But everything he's done, he has just been phenomenal. And you got to think that after MASH, he didn't have to work another day of his
Yeah, he
life,
was quite
right?
the humanitarian after that. I don't
Yeah.
think he worked in it. I think he guest starred in like some Law and Order or one of those those type shows. But yeah, he didn't have to work. He became quite the humanitarian after that.
And there is so much lore behind MASH about how OCD the writers were, about actors not ad libbing and all that kind of stuff. And I think still today, it's the most successful TV show ever. Like more people comparatively watch the finale of MASH than any other TV show in history.
Right, right.
So
And then you can go back and see stars before they were stars, guest starring in whatever role. And again, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head because it was more about watching the show together than actually watching
Yeah.
the show. But you can go back and see stars now that are old men, old women, and you can see them as youngsters or teenagers or just starting off acting, and they just landed this role as this injured soldier or this nurse or someone else in the show. And again, like Star Trek, it taught us a lot too about compassion for your enemy and how to work together as a team and how to resolve issues as a team. That what Star Trek was for me, I'm sure M.A.S.H was for a lot of people.
Yeah. And then the other nighttime shows. So I didn't get to stay up late. I mean, during the school year, but during the summer, it didn't
Right.
matter.
Yeah.
And we lived in a single wide modular home, and it actually wasn't a modular; it was a trailer. And we had bunk beds, my brother and I. And I had the top bunk, and we had an old black and white TV. It was probably about I don't know, a 9-inch screen, maybe a 10-inch screen or something like that, black and white
hmm
TV. And I would turn it on KSL, which was the local channel 5 at night, and it was like Love Boat and Hawaii 5 and Magnum PI, and those shows were just on, just back to back to back. And I don't think I could ever count how many nights I fell asleep with that old TV on, clear on the other end of the room on the dresser, with me laying over and watching between the railing, because I had a railing that could go on and off, so I
Right.
wouldn't roll out of the bunk
Yeah,
bed.
to keep you from falling out.
Right, between the railing and the mattress, just laying there watching that show, right? And I just over and over and over again, and those shows were terrible, right? If you watch them now, they are just
Now,
not
hold
good.
on. No, there's still some that I so before you say they're all terrible, I watched the episode of Little House on the Prairie the other day. Um Funny story, my remote broke for the TV, and between the time ordering on Amazon until it came, I was stuck with just turning on the TV because Alexa can turn on the TV, and it would turn to one of those channels. Well, it wasn't Star Trek; it was Little House on the Prairie, and it was an awesome episode. I watched it from beginning to end, and it was like, one, I need to get my control. I need to get a new remote right away. But two, like, wow, these are really good episodes.
Yeah.
Back then, and it was an episode with Lou Gossett Jr. Again, I grew up watching him playing old man roles, but this was many years ago. He was a younger guy, and it was about racism and uh, Michael Landon's character and the other guy. I can't remember the guy, the blonde guy. Okay with working with the guy. They were hauling dynamite, so it was a
Yeah.
dangerous job. If you explode, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic. You're all gonna look the same if you all explode. But one guy was being real racist and didn't want to work with Lou Gossett's character and all of that. So, yeah, no, I'm gonna disagree with you there.
No, no, no,
Some of those
but
episodes are really good.
I'm not saying all of the shows are bad. I'm just saying Love Boat was not a great show.
It wasn't. It wasn't. There's a new
Hawaii
version of it too.
Hawaii 5 also not really a great show. Maybe a
Yeah.
little better. So those that I'm saying, but they were on the channel. We didn't back in my day. We didn't have remote controls,
All right.
and
You
the
would have to
TV
get
was
out of
clear
bed
over
and climb
there.
down the ladder and walk across the room and turn the
And
dial.
did you really want to risk mom and dad thinking you shouldn't be awake at 1 o'clock in the morning? So, because the way I knew I would fall asleep is that I would wake up and it would be the
Yep. Or
rainbow.
the national anthem. Yep.
Yeah, that's all gone, right? So,
Yep. Yep.
so
At the end of the regular
yep,
programming.
yep. Then I only have one more, and then we'll see what other ones you have. But you pulled this one out on our ship one, and that's Gilligan's Island.
Yeah. Yep. That was a good one.
Such a great show. How many times that poor dude could get himself in hot water and make really, really little mistakes that cause all kinds of chaos on an island where there's only 6 people.
Yeah. Yeah. Six people. He found mischief to get into every week.
Oh,
Yeah. 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 Gilligan's Island was it didn't make my list, but it was a show we were pretty fond of,
yeah.
right? But it didn't fall in the nighttime block for us. In the summertime, it fell in the daytime shows. So we watched plenty of Gilligan's Island, and that brings me to my list. And one of the shows on my list was a show called The Monkees. You remember the
Hey,
Monkees? So
hey,
this,
we're the
yeah.
monkeys. People
So
say
this
we
was a
monkey
Beatles knockoff.
around.
Yeah, yeah. And we tuned in every day to that show. And it was part of the daytime block. It was the Monkees, it was Bewitched, it was Gilligan's Island, and it was something else. It wasn't Starsky and Hutch, but I remember Starsky and Hutch a few times here and there, but I can't remember what the other show was. I need to message my brother and see if he remembers it. But yeah, the Monkees was a show I hold near and dear to my heart. They were a Beatles kind of mainstream like knockoff. Of course, they couldn't do a show about the Beatles because the record company that owned them, they wouldn't allow a TV show. So they thought of the Monkees, and it was really good. It was
Yeah.
really good, a really fun show.
Do you remember the intro where it had the big giant map of the US on the ground and they were riding the trike and tipped over and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a movie called That Thing You Do with Tom Hanks. It's
Okay.
about the Wonders. They had one hit song and he's the music producer, but part of that is they're rising up the charts and stuff. They recreate that opening scene of the Monkees.
Okay. And they're going, I gotta check that out. I'm pretty sure there's a
Yeah.
YouTube clip or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was one. So another show, and I created a lot of shows with giving me my love of technology and the future, right? There was Star Trek, there was um Battlestar Galactica, all of the sci-fi stuff. Star Wars, it made us the nerds we are. But one show stands out above all of the rest. And I have this show ripped from the DVDs. The DVDs are in my closet. The DVD cases I got rid of years ago, but I still have it. And that's Knight Rider. Did you watch Knight
Mm,
Rider?
Kit. Woo woo.
Kid.
Woo woo.
Yep. Yep.
Woo
And
woo.
funny story. There's a guy with a Tesla that's recreating the whole Tesla, his whole Tesla with the Knight Rider experience. So it's a newer
Nice.
car, but he put on the little inside. The voice control is all Kit, and the actual voice actor that voices Kit voiced some of his commands and stuff for the car. It's really cool. He has a whole YouTube channel based on the journey of building it out. But Knight Rider is one of my favorite shows. Now, and it gave me a love for cars, right? I know it was a Trans Am. I like cars, but I'm not really a car guy. You know what I mean? I did change the latch on my Ford Flex today, and that was pretty technical for me. I felt good after getting it all reassembled after losing screw after screw and dropping things down in the door frame. But I'm not really a car guy. It didn't give me a love of cars as much as it gave me a love of technology, right? I always wanted to get in my car and talk to my car, just like we come in the room and I could talk to my voice assistant and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. I just always wanted a voice assistant like Kit, and yeah, it gave me my love of technology. And just thinking back again, it fell in the daytime block, so it wasn't a family show. Me and my brother watched it. Um, we spent a lot of time bonding. We spent a lot of time crying when Kit got destroyed. He is gonna I can imagine when he watches this episode, I could get that text in the middle of the night, like, why are you telling people that? I remember crying and him crying when the guy with the forklift dumped Kid over in the acid bath and it kind of destroyed him and stuff like that. And they rebuilt him and he was scared he was kind of getting his nerves back from all of that, all of that. I remember all of those episodes and I'm watching this as a young man and it's bringing back those emotions. Like, this is an inanimate object. Like, why? But we loved it. We loved it. We loved Goliath. With one of my favorite characters has always been Goliath, which is the truck version of Kid, because the driver was Michael Knight's twin brother turned evil, you know. So he had to have an evil truck, and it was an awesome truck. And just watching the showdowns with that, uh, funny. Never explained it, or maybe they explained it and I missed it. Because Michael Knight got plastic surgery. That's why he got his facial reconstruction to look like David Hasselhoff. That's how he looked, right? That was the story behind it. He got, I believe, shot or injured in the face and got facial reconstructive surgery. So why did his twin brother look like him after the surgery?
Because it was the
Never
80s,
explained it.
Jason. It was the
Yeah.
80s.
I know I shouldn't think so much into it, but it just never made any sense to me. Like, how does he look like the reconstructed face? That means they weren't twins. They didn't look alike at all. But uh yeah. Um yeah. Knight Rider was pretty high up on my list after Star Trek. Another one was kind of a spinoff of not a spinoff. Not at all, because the shows were unrelated, but kind of a knockoff version of it was Airwolf. You remember
Mm-hmm.
Airwolf? Was
Yep.
basically Knight Rider in a helicopter,
Yep.
and that was a really good show too.
That was a
Kind of
mean helicopter.
it was a really good show. A lot of episodes kind of knocked off Star Trek and knocked off knocked off Knight Rider. The writers weren't very original, but still was really a really good show. So that was pretty good. Of course, Star Trek was on my list, and we started off talking about that, and I'm glad we did because that was a really good show. But another show, I would say, and this is kind of I remember this being kind of a middle school going to high school thing because I remember the transition from I was in middle school, but I wasn't going to the middle school I was zoned to. My mom was still taking me across town every day to my old middle school until I finished there, and then I would start the high school at the new district. Well, I remember it was like a matter of like down to like the seconds before we got home. If there was any wreck or something or traffic or anything, we had to stop at the store. It would take time away from me getting home and getting in front of the TV at the right time to watch this show because there was no, like I said, kids, there was no DVR for us. There was no on demand. I had to be in front of the TV at the same time or you would miss out on the story. And that was the Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was a big part of, like I said, that transition from middle school to high school. And yeah, just that drive from Aldine Middle School where we were over to Sheldon where we lived at, because again, I had to stay to finish out the school year. It caused me to miss a lot of episodes. Like if we got a flat tire or my mom had to stop and buy groceries for dinner that night, I would miss an episode. And I just remember every day, like, please, I'm leaving school. I'm ready to go. Please be no traffic. And we get home and I get out of the car, I grab everything and I'm in front of the TV and the episode comes on. So
So
really, really good memories with that.
I did not watch it.
Really? Oh,
No,
you were kind of
I
already past all of
yeah,
that,
but
right?
here's the thing. So I spent 2 years in Brazil on a church mission,
Hmm.
and it was crazy popular in Brazil while I was there. And so most days we would eat lunch at the home of a church member. And in Brazil, you have 2 hours for lunch. And there's no sense in trying to do anything during that 2 hour because the only places that are open are the places that are going to be busy.
Right,
And
the food
everybody
places
else is
and
going to
stuff.
tell you, no, not, I'm not listening. I'm not doing anything till after lunch. So we would just basically sit, we would eat, and then we would basically sit in their living rooms, and their kids were always watching Power
Power
Rangers.
Ranger. Yeah. Yeah. Good
So
show.
I'm in 110-degree weather,
Yeah.
sitting on a leather couch in a house with no air conditioning on a
Right.
full stomach and having drank uh, passion fruit juice, real passion fruit juice, which is actually um, has tryptophan, so got a sedative in it.
Right. So yeah, so
Watching
it's making
Power
you
Rangers.
drowsy. So you remember waking up or dozing off to a bunch of mega robot fights and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about it, but it was just a really good show. It's just one of those teeny shows that always had a happy ending. Some episode, well, the majority of episodes, I know there was some that try to have a cliffhanger and stuff like that, but it always worked out at the end. The team always worked together to figure out the problem and things like that. It was just good fun watching. And then it gave you some robots and things like that. So
It was the next evolution of Voltron, right? I
yes,
mean, we talked
yeah,
about Voltron in our toys episode.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So good times, good times. So do you want to talk about some modern shows?
Yeah, let's do some modern. I'm just going to go through my list real fast because it's not much. I just don't watch a lot of modern TV. So I watch a series called Alone. This is where they drop 10 people off in a remote location, separate from each other. You're miles away from anybody else.
So it's
The,
more of a reality show.
it is a reality show. He or she who stays there the longest wins money, right? But it's extreme. So most of the time it's somewhere they drop them off like in October. And so if you're going to last 60 days, you're into full blown winter, enough that you're ice fishing to find
Okay.
food, right? This last one, they didn't. They dropped them off in a desert. And so it never froze. It still got super cold,
Right.
but there
Another,
was no
yeah.
snow to contend with. But you get to take 10 items and it's from a list, but it's like a ferro rod to start a fire, a
Okay.
shovel, a bow and arrow, a tarp, a multi-tool. You pick from a list of things. And then again, whoever lasts the longest wins the money, but they do med checks. So if you lose too much weight, they're going to pull you for health reasons. You have a sat phone and you have an emergency pager, basically, is what you have with you. And so we watched that. We watched every season that they've released. We're always one season behind because they come to Hulu. I think it is Hulu.
Hmm.
Um, when the next season starts, they drop the season before on streaming kind of thing,
Okay.
at least there. So we watched that. And then the only other two I could really think of is a show called Leverage, and then the follow up show, which was called Leverage Redemption. So have you ever watched either of those?
No,
All right.
no, I'm familiar with it, but I hadn't watched
Phenomenal
it.
shows. It's an insurance investigator for like high end insurance fraud and theft
Hmm.
and stuff like that. His son dies, so he kind of goes a little bit rogue, and somebody hires him to steal back their intellectual property from a competitor
Okay.
and hires him to lead the team of thieves that he's put together. So it's a thief, a grifter, a hacker, and a hitman or a recovery
Okay.
specialist, right? And leads him to do that. Well, double crosses him. It actually wasn't his research that he was stealing back. It was stealing the actual research from the competitor and then didn't pay them and tried to kill them all.
Okay. Okay.
So the first two episodes are that, and then they of course have to get back at him, and then they all decide they're going to go Robin Hood. And so they become this high end group of thieves that go after people that, you know, pharmaceutical companies that kill people for profit or,
Hmm.
whatever. And so it ran 6 or 7 seasons. Super, super good. And then a few years later, they did another show called um, Leverage Redemption. The main guy, the story is he passed away. Um, so he's not there anymore. But the rest of the crew is the same for the most part. And then they bring in Noah Wiley as
Okay.
he's a corporate attorney, and his client turns on a bunch of he negotiated settlement for a bunch of stuff, and then his client decides he's just not going to do it, and so he gets super super mad and walks into a museum to ruin one of the guy's Van Goghs or whatever it is that's hanging on the museum wall.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, the crew is in there just scoping it out, and so they get connected. Anyway, that one only ran for 3 seasons, and I don't think they're making any more. So there's about 9 or 10 seasons total between those, but I'll go back and just watch episodes.
Okay.
Karen and I'll do it like on date night if we just go get food and then come back, and we'll just pick an episode. There's very little profanity. There's not the kind of grotesque ultra violence that you see in shows like that today. Like it's not like I really would like to watch Castle, for example, but
Yeah.
how many times could you see violent murders
Right.
over and over again, right? That kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have any of that kind of stuff. But the intrigue for how they plan out the cons and all the different stuff, and they tackled all kinds of different topics like getting a federal witness to reveal themselves and going undercover to um, get a corrupt mayor who's allowing gun running in his port
Hmm.
and all this stuff. So super, super good. But that's it. Those are really the only three shows that I do much of anything with. I'll start a show and then I'll realize either it's got too much violence or too much of this or too much of that.
Right.
And I'm just
Right.
like, I just don't want to go down the path.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that was it for you?
Yeah, that's all on my list for now.
So I gotta say, I'm pretty surprised that you watch anything that's reality TV based. I mean, it is about survival, and I know you're an outdoorsman and all of that. But there's a ton of outdoor shows. A Zero Below, I think we talked about that before. They
It's
show it on
similar to those kinds of things. So we've watched Mountain Men, which is
yeah,
another one
yeah.
that's like that, and I do like those, but I like the competition aspect, but it's not
Okay.
like Survivor where you
Yeah.
can undercut because they don't know how many people are left at any given time.
Okay. So they can be the winner and they're still just toughing it out
Yeah,
there.
they'll only let the winner go one day. There was only one season where if you won, you got X amount, but if you went 100 days,
Hmm.
you got like 500,000 or something like that. So it
Okay.
was a
Yeah.
significant amount, but they'll only let you go the next day. But even now, people don't know. Are you getting because they'll just send a page to the winner and say med check tomorrow or med check later today, and they
Okay.
don't know. They're probably hoping on for day 45 or whatever that they're coming out to tell them they won, but they don't know for sure because they don't get told how many people are left or who is left or any of
Okay.
this stuff. And so it
How
is
many
just,
seasons have this been running?
I think like 11.
Okay. So it's a show. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
all right.
But no, I'm not going to watch the reality TV stuff like Big Brother or, any of those kinds of things that are just people staging all this kind of stuff. Because you are welcome to try and stage a show for the alone folks. But at some point, you're starving
Right.
and
It's gonna go off the
freezing,
rails. Yeah.
and all you care about is survive.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I get it. So for me, I'm like you. I don't watch much modern TV, but there are a few things that I do want to mention. And I'll start with Star Trek, of course, because I know we started the show talking about it, but um we talked about the difference in storytelling and the way that these shows are now. So one of the things that I like that Star Trek Discovery did, and well, Discovery not on my list, but I'm talking about how they affect the next show, right? Discovery affect Strange New Worlds, and I watched Strange New Worlds, and let me tell you, this is as Star Trek as it gets. This is the best version of Star Trek that we've seen in years, and I know people have their complaints about it. Oh, it's not what Gene Roddenberry wanted. It's not the original idea and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of complaints. Oh, it's too many women. Oh, it's too woke. It's too this. It's too that. This is as Star Trek as it's going to get. Now, without talking about the Starfleet Academy, which was a total flop. I hadn't watched any of those because of my own personal reasons, not because of the things that people complain about, but just the storytelling. How it's episodic, right? They have different episodes every week, and they have this thing. The story, or I will say that's the B story, right? The weekly story is the B story, but they have this overarching story for the season that they're telling. I love that. I love that. And that kind of started around the time when we talked about DS9 and the Dominion Wars,
Hmm.
right? Not every episode was about the war itself, right? They go off and they do something. They get stuck somewhere doing something related to the Dominion Wars, but the episode was about that. And it's that version of storytelling that I like, right? There's a whole overarching story that they're telling over the entire season, right? The 10 episode season or 8, 9 episodes or however many episodes the season is. Each episode has its thing, but there's still that overarching story that gets you coming back. And that the season of Picard, right? They were stuck in the past. That's what the season was about. But every episode was something different. And I like that version of storytelling. And that's why I'm hooked on the newer shows, right? I still like Discovery despite, its faults and stuff like that. And it's kind of forcing this change of history that we're used to, kind of changing the whole story of Star Trek. Um, but I think Strange New Worlds does it right. Right. It does it right. So that's on my list of shows that I watch. Another show, again, you talked about the violence and stuff, and I know this is not something you would ever check out, but everyone loves Captain America. Everyone loves Iron Man. If you ask somebody, some kid, what's their favorite superhero, they would also often say, Spider Man or the Hulk or something like that. Well, me growing up, for some reason, it's always been Daredevil. I was so excited when they Ben Affleck did the Daredevil movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was something for the fans, and I loved it. I know somebody can debate me for days and tell me how terrible the movie was. It was bad. I'll admit that, but I loved it. They did a reboot on Netflix, and they had a Daredevil show. That was a great show. I think with them trying to do the Avengers thing and try to include all of the defenders in, Luke Cage and Iron Fist and all of those, it kind of diluted Daredevil's story, but I still enjoyed that show. Well, there's a remake of that show called Daredevil Rebirth, and I hadn't watched the last season, but it is an awesome show. It really does the character justice. They tie him in. Daredevil was in the last Spider-Man movie. He was a brief cameo in that. He was in She-Hulk, and one of his alternate costumes, which I really love. One of the first costumes that he had was kind of red and orange or red and yellow. Um, they're really doing justice to that character with these stories, and now they are super violent. Um, one of the one of the style of recording that they do is these long takes, right? They're started and the whole take, whether it's multiple room and multiple people, it's all one take. And they're usually fight scenes. And they put one of these in a couple of times during the season, and it is just uh, uh, it is really cool. They show it from the cameras just following him through. And he's getting slammed and thrown into another room and picked up and slammed into the wall, and the camera's just following through, and it goes past the characters, but you can still hear them fighting. Then all of a sudden, you'll see another guy fly past the camera, and another guy. It is just really awesome storytelling, with really visual storytelling that's really good for a show like that, right? Daredevil, he has superpowers, but he doesn't fly. He can't lift up cars and stuff like that. So it's not as magical as, watching a Hulk throw a SUV at somebody, but it is still, they really do him justice. So Daredevil is on my list. Um, Other than that, there's a few other shows that I would mention that I would check out, but again, I just don't watch much TV. I call it Zero Below, but I think it's like 30 Below or something like that. I do like shows like that where they're more of like a docu-series kind of
Hmm.
thing. They document people's lives. It's not really a reality show, just a camera following them around in their daily lives. I like stuff like that. But I will mention it was on my list of nostalgic shows from when we were little, when we were younger, and then now there's a remake that's X-Men '97. Is a remake of the old X-Men cartoon from the '90s. I hadn't watched this. The new season is out. They're getting towards the end, so I'll binge watch that one weekend when I'm free. But that's another one that just pure to the comics, right? No studio saying, nope, we want the character to have this backstory because we want to have this certain movie star. Nope, they just take the comic, animate it, put it on there. And that's what I love about the old one. I know they're kind of twisting, changing things a little bit now, but still really good comic storytelling with X-Men '97. So the new season's out. It's just about finished, and yeah, it's great.
Yep. Yeah, and I have less and less time to do that now because I have to
Yeah.
kind of decide. The other reason I watch only those shows and I rewatch a lot of Leverage is the same reason I reread books over and over again. I just I don't have time or brain power to absorb something new, right? Because it's just like I started a book series. It's a 5 book series, phenomenal series. And I got to book 4, and then there was some elements of book 4 I didn't like. So I
Mhm.
read like 3 chapters and I said, well, I'm not going to read this one. I'll just read the final one. And then I just gave up. I was like, no, never mind. I'm not even going to finish the series. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's just the stage of life that I'm in right now. I mean, as much as with my job, I wanted it to be don't have to worry about a whole lot. I'm I don't have free brain power. right now.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's a finite
So
amount of brain power that
yeah.
you have. I
So
said before, you and my wife are the only nerds that I know that reread books. And I'm always trying to get her like, hey, I have books. I have audiobooks. You want to listen? Now I'll listen to them. Oh, I'll check them out. Nope. What are you reading? Like Water for Chocolate. Oh, what? This is like the third time you've read this since we've been married. It's
yep. Yep.
so, well, it is,
Yep.
it is what it is.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for sticking with us. Hope you enjoyed this. If you've got other retro versus modern or nostalgia trips you want to go on with us, drop a comment in there, share, subscribe, share this with the youngins that just don't understand
Yeah.
what life was really like and how awesome it was. Those young kids that would say, how did you miss an episode because you got home late? You just hit play and you're like, no, you
Yeah.
don't understand. It was in order. And if you missed it, who knew when you were ever going to get a chance? Yeah. Share this with those people so they understand how hard life really was for us back then.
Yeah. That's what we had to go through.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll talk at you later.
Thanks, guys.